All right, we're back with another edition of What's Hockey. We got a lot to get into, so we're going to go straight into it. We got to talk, deadline. We got to go into a firing, and of course, we're going to touch on our Stars and Rangers. Keaton, why don't you go ahead and fill us in on that firing before we get to the trade deadline fun stuff?
Yeah, so apparently the New Jersey Devils, they lost their Lindy Ruff coach. He got fired. The last few losses, he said he took responsibility for them, and just like the Kings coach, got fired pretty much the next day or the couple days after. So, I mean, yeah,
It
probably
kind of
shouldn't
sounds like
be,
it almost sounds
taking
like
that
coaches.
responsibility.
Yeah. No, it just sounds like coaches say that when they know they're about to get fired, and then so they know
Could
when they
be,
get
yeah.
to their next job interview, they can say like, I didn't blame the players. I
That
know
was on
that
me.
it was on me.
Yeah.
But and so that's the
Yeah, I
thing though.
mean,
Yo, what? Sorry.
who knows? I was just gonna say they're vying for the wild card spot. They're 8 points behind, so I mean, they might be trying, but I think last night they lost against I want to say the Panthers. Yeah, the Panthers. The new coach Travis Green. He was, I believe, the assistant coach before, and now he's just the interim coach. Unfortunately, they lost 5-3, but I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, they are still 8 points behind. We probably only have like 20 games left in the season. So
When I
I don't know
think,
what you're going to be able to do with that.
yeah, and so I was watching a little video of some analysts talking about Lindy Ruff's firing. They were really saying that they allow a ton of goals, and it comes to, I forget the exact name of the stat. Could be like goal conversion or percent of chances saved, missed, or whatever. There's always some like long name for it, but essentially the stat describes goals that probably should have been saved that were not, and the Devils were the second worst team at it. And there was talk that the analysts were saying that the Devils should have brought in a goalie a long time ago. They kind of left Lindy Ruff to deal with like a trash defensive and goalie situation. And so,
Probably, yeah.
and he gets blamed for it. He gets fired for it. And so normally we always talk about the boost that teams get when they bring in a new head coach. But I mean, if the goalie situation is the exact same, I don't know what they do. I know they're only
You can rally all you want, but
yeah, and while they're 7 points out of the wild card spot, the competition for that spot is insane. Because I mean, in their own division, they're tied with the Penguins, but they're behind the Capitals, the Islanders, and they're behind you in the other division, same conference. They're behind the Lightning. So there's a lot of competition for that last wild card spot. They still have the same goalie situation, so I don't foresee them being able to overcome that, even with the new boot. With
yeah,
the
and
boost
they're
from the new
2 points,
coach.
or sorry, 2 games behind the Penguins. They have two more games played, so I would assume that the Penguins are probably going to beat them out of that, I guess, fifth or sixth spot. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
honestly, I'm
I mean,
surprised that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that as far as the trade stuff, because they recently acquired somebody, but you can go ahead before we
Yeah,
segue into that.
no, I mean, I was gonna, transition into the trade deadline stuff as well, and say like I would not be surprised if 2 days from now, when the deadline is, it's March 8th, that they're selling. Like I get that they're trying to push for the playoffs
I mean, that's
with
kind of
firing the
ironic,
coach.
but yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
the,
it's
the
kind
thing
of
that they should be selling, yeah, but they recently acquired Curtis McDermott from the Avs for Bardakov, sorry, and a seventh round pick in the upcoming draft. And in that same night, they lost to the Ducks. So I don't really understand how they're thinking they could be contenders if they're losing to the Ducks. They recently acquired for somebody, and they recently fired their coach, and they lost after firing their coach. I mean, just
my
seems like a
guess.
shit show on the
So I'm
Devils
not
side.
sure, and I should probably do a little more research on the two players involved in that trade. But being that the player they received also came with a draft pick, and the Colorado Avs just got the player by
It was the other way
themselves.
around.
Oh, I'm sorry, they gave up
Avs
a
got
draft
the
pick.
player and a pick. Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. The Avs got the. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't know what they're doing.
Their New Jersey Devils gave away their draft pick. I don't know what they're doing. They're
My
like
guess,
just
I mean,
train
the only
wrecking.
thing I can think of is financial reasons, but I would have to pull that up. I don't have that in
Yeah.
front of me, but yeah, that doesn't make any
Maybe they
sense
need
to
Taylor
me.
Swift to date one of the players in the
Oh
NHL.
boy,
You bring in some
she's gonna hit all the sports.
salary caps. Yeah, dude.
My goodness. Okay, yeah, no, I don't understand that at all. I don't know what the
Yeah.
Devils are doing, man. I feel like at
Yeah, I
that
mean
point,
they're 8 points behind. There's no, or I guess 7, but no, yeah, they're 8 points still because
like I
Tampa
said,
Bay and Detroit
it's
are
not the
72.
biggest
But
deficit, but the competition there it's stiff right now, man.
it's stacked. I mean,
It's a
yeah,
real
I mean
stacked,
the Islanders aren't that
yeah.
terrible. The Capitals aren't that terrible. The Penguins aren't that terrible compared to the Devils. I mean, I don't know. They're very far behind as far as how many teams are ahead of them,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
100%.
So I don't know.
I don't know what they're doing.
Little to no way that they're going to make the playoffs, but I mean, they're trying.
Yeah. We can also talk about some other teams making moves. You mentioned the Avs. I'll go to my team in the same division. The Stars pick up Tanev since the last time we spoke. And Tanev, he's not a big offensive production. He's a defenseman. Some defenders be scoring. He's not one of them. But what he does do is bring, a shutdown. He shuts down the left side of the defensive line is what I believe he prefers to play and plays most often. And so, I mean, the Stars
Did he play last night, or
he did play last night.
Okay.
He did. The Stars are definitely going for it. They are,
Yeah.
and they've got a lot of young talent in their forwards department. So bringing in the defensemen, that's definitely the only area that I say is a need. I was listening to some like NHL Network guys talk about the deadline, and they say the teams that go for it, they always bring in an extra defenseman. Going on the transactions, they do let Joel Hanley go on waivers, and he's picked up by Calgary, which it threw me off for a second because I'm reading the transaction report and I see Hanley, and I immediately think Harley because Thomas Harley is second right now in goals for defensemen, and I'm like, what are we doing? And then I see it's Hanley,
realize,
and I got to wipe the crust out of my early morning eyes to see that, but. We're pretty lucky there I'm glad, that it was Hanley. Good for him. He's a good role player, but Tanev definitely needs that spot. Tanev's going to be a big boost. And
speaking of the Stars going for it, the Calgary Flames get a conditional draft pick if the Stars reach the Cup. So even if they just make the Cup, not even win, but the Flames will get a pick just because of that.
In that Tanev trade too, I was again watching a video about it, and they were saying the Stars are only paying, I think it was 25% of Tanev's salary. There were 3 teams involved. Calgary, I think, is paying either 50 or 25, obviously, and the other team's paying 50 or 25. But it totals out to where they're taking on 75% of Tanev's contract. So that's a big boost. The Stars, we talked about in the past, they don't have a lot of salary cap. So for that deal to be done, there were some bright minds at work, and they got it done. So glad about that. But he wasn't the only defenseman move. There was also Lyubushkin, correct?
Yeah, Ilya Lyubushkin got traded to the Maple Leafs in a 3-way trade with the Ducks and the Hurricanes. The Canes got a Toronto 6th round pick in this year's draft, and they also got Kirill Slepets, a forward, and the Ducks get Toronto's 3rd round pick from the 2025 draft. So it's kind of an interesting, I guess, 3-way trade. But yeah, I mean, Lyubushkin's kind of an average player. I kind of looked up his stats. He's not, stellar, at least offensively. He's probably pretty decent. I noticed, at least on the Ducks, he had a pretty bad plus-minus rating, but the Ducks are trash. So, I mean, you can't really blame him for that. And at least with the Maple Leafs, he's got 2 games so far, and he's only -1 rating so far. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Of course, he can just, step up his game, make the Maple Leafs a legit contender. And of course, they're just kind of adding depth to their team, just making sure that they're going to actually, get through the playoffs without injuries or, some sort of issue like that.
Yeah, it's just bolstering the roster. There's obviously injuries happen all the time in hockey. And so you want to make sure that you got some good depth there. You don't want to be calling up, unproven talent. Unless we can get to it in a bit, but calling up some unproven talent in the NHL for the Stars has worked out. But no, yeah, you want that depth for sure, especially making that playoff run. They believe in their team, and they're just bolstering the roster. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think over the next 2 days you'll probably see a lot of moves like that. I'd be surprised if you see any big moves because teams. The thing about
Still have two
hockey
days.
the thing about hockey too though is like the worst teams in the league can compete at times. Like we're gonna get to the Stars in a bit,
Yeah.
but I'll talk about the Sharks.
I mean, the Sharks
Um,
almost beat.
yeah, dude. And so like, and we'll get to that in a bit. But essentially, I'm saying like you don't want to give up your future just for a further down the road future with draft picks from a team that's probably
Yeah.
going to be good, and you don't know that it's going to be what like the 20th pick in the draft, 25th, and so they definitely. I don't think you'll see any massive moves even from the worst teams, but I think you'll see people getting rid of contracts, people who may be due for a payday that they don't intend to pay. They'll go ahead and throw out some loaner deals. And so, yeah, I don't expect to see, like I said, massive deals, but you should see deals of bolstering the roster and getting rid of expiring contracts and older players, really. That's kind of what it has been.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of, I guess, bolstering the roster, for whatever reason, the New Jersey Devils are buyers in this. Just getting, what's his name? Did we talk about that? Curtis McDermott from the Avs?
Yeah, we just we touched on McDermott.
It's just kind of wild. And then I know the Blue Jackets got Alex Nylander from the Penguins. It was a couple of weeks ago on the 22nd. But he recorded his first NHL hat trick with the new team. So, I mean, it could be a pretty good scenery situation for the guy. So, all for it. So hopefully, we'll see the Blue Jackets do a little bit more with Nylander.
For sure. And on the Western Conference, we saw Mantha being traded to Vegas, and he's supposed to be a pretty good pickup for them. Vegas, of course, is a perennial. They're a pretty dang good team, man. And so
I mean, they've been slipping pretty recently, though. They're actually third now.
Yeah,
or
but
fourth. Sorry.
I get you, and I mean that's also another reason why they're adding.
They were first, to start the season, so it's kind of crazy that they've slipped so far.
Yeah,
I mean, granted that division's pretty packed, but
dude, that division's got the Kings who are playing really well. We talked about the Oilers stepping up, and Vancouver is going for it. Vegas, it looks like they're just trying to get that wild card spot at this point. So
at the very least,
Mantha will definitely help with them. But that's a team that even if they're the wild card, I don't want to play them. Like I've seen what their games they're not always high scoring, but that kind of defense, it's frustrating. And as good as the forwards are in Dallas,
and
I don't want to deal with it.
Aiden Hill, is that his name? The goalie. He's really good. So he's always got a pretty solid save percentage. And ironically, Mantha's actually still on the Red Wings contract that was given to him in November of 2020. So this year, he'll be an unrestricted free agent if the Knights don't re-sign him. And it's just going to be kind of interesting. The Capitals got a 2024 second round pick and a 2026 fourth round pick. He's got 34 points in 56 games on the season, and it'd be pretty nice to see the Golden Knights keep him. He's not too bad.
Yeah, and I mean right now, the Knights have 73 points, same as the Kings, who are third, but the Kings have one more game to play. Nashville, who's been streaking up the standings, they're up to 73 points as well. They're fourth in the division with the Stars. So, I mean, it's going to be a tight wild card. It's definitely going to come down to those three, I believe. I mean, the Kraken are 6 points behind them. And same with the Blues. I don't foresee either team catching up. So one of those teams will get – Nashville's not going to get the third seed in the division. So Nashville is going to be one of the wild cards. So then at that point in the Pacific, it's just the Kings and Knights fighting for the third spot, and the other will get the wild card. And that's pretty much locked up. There is a chance, the Blues or I'm sorry, I just said it, the Kraken catch up. And maybe even Calgary, but Calgary selling. And And so those are going to
Yeah.
be the playoff teams. It'll just be, we'll see if the Kings or if the Knights end up in that wild card spot.
Yeah. And
Either way,
speaking
I
the
don't.
opposite of that
Go ahead.
trade, the Capitals aren't really that far behind as far as the playoffs are concerned. And like we talked about, I mean, it's a very packed, I guess, wild card decision with the Lightning, the Red Wings, the Capitals, the Islanders, and the Sabres, I think. Maybe not. But yeah, I mean, I don't even see the Capitals trying to make a run for the wild card. They look like they're selling. They've gotten rid of Mantha. So I still don't understand what the Devils are doing because they're so much farther behind than the Capitals, and the Capitals can kind of see what's going on with the season, and it looks like they're just kind of getting prepared for the next.
The Capitals are weird, man, because like, okay, so the Lightning have 3 more games played than them. Y'all have only 1 more. The Islanders only 1 more, but they're 3 behind the Islanders, 3 points behind the Islanders, I should say. And they're 7 behind Tampa, which in 3 games they can make up 6 points of that, so make it a 1 point advantage. And then with y'all, they're 6 points behind y'all as well, or I'm sorry, 7 points behind y'all as well. Um, they're not completely out of it. Again, we have talked about their division is so compact as far as teams vying for that last wild card spot. And it honestly could be the other division in their same conference, y'all's, where the Lightning and the Red Wings take those 2 wild card spots. So, I mean,
I mean, it kind of looks like that's what's probably going to happen. I don't
and I
really see
think
the
it
Lightning
looks like the GM's kind of
falling
agreeing
off.
with you on that, being that they just gave up Mantha. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly his contract as well, but they get a second, they get a fourth out of it. So yeah, it does look like
Yeah.
they're going for the future. So maybe we do see them sell off another piece or two, and they go ahead and resign themselves for this season.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, but I know you mentioned the Predators. They recently re-signed, what's his name? Tommy Novak to a 3-year deal, cementing the younger center's immediate future with the Predators. He's got 34 points over 51 games. He's only 26, and they're tied for the third playoff spot with the Knights and Kings with all 73 points. So, yeah, they're probably going to make the playoffs. They did unfortunately lose their winning streak. They only went 8 games in a row, but they lost recently to the Canadians in OT 4-3. So they'll look to bounce back against the Sabres, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, they're a solid team. I don't see the Sabres being very great anyway, so it'll most likely be a win. But yeah, it's just kind of all converging into the playoff run, seeing what teams are going to do, and with this trade deadline a couple days away, we'll see what happens with other players. Speaking of streaks, recently the Coyotes lost 14 in a row. They recently won 2 games in a row and then lost against the Blackhawks. So out of 16 games, they've lost 14. So pretty bad. They will play against the Wild on Thursday, but I don't see them winning. So they'll probably be sellers, or at the very least, just kind of preparing for the next season anyway, just because nothing's going to happen.
In
It's kinda
those
crazy.
2 wins, one of them was the Capitals. We were just talking about them.
Yeah.
That was Sunday. I wonder if they saw that loss Sunday and they're like, just trade Mantha. We're not going for it. We're trash.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that could be the case. They also won against the Senators, but those are also not contenders. And they lost against the Blackhawks, which are like the last in the Central Division or whatever. So I don't really understand how the Coyotes managed that win.
I will say this about hockey compared to
Or
other
Western, sorry.
sports is that like basketball, you have your really good teams and really bad teams, and those bad teams cannot compete with the good teams at all. Like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
In hockey, the worst teams can compete with, like, you have a puncher's chance in hockey. The teams are closer built, I think, in hockey. I think the same thing goes for football. I mean, football, of course, there's that cycle where it's like, okay, this team beat this team, and at one point it'll be a full circle. The worst team has even beat this team, unless it's the 0-16 Lions. No offense, but it always happens every year, right? And so, but
Didn't
hockey's
mention the
different,
Browns.
and we could transition to talking about our teams. I can talk about us playing one of the worst teams back to back, which is the Sharks. And we played the Sharks
Yeah, both
Saturday
games are
night.
OT.
Yes, the Saturday one went to a shootout. And the thing with the Sharks is that I don't think they put up enough shots for themselves. So for instance, I think when it was 2-1
Just
Sharks
don't
in the
have puck
first game, dude, we had like
possession.
25 shots on goal and they had like 8, and they were up 2-1, and we end up coming back, tying the game. We go to overtime and win, and we go to shootouts and win. And then the game last night against the Sharks in San Jose, when they scored their 6th goal, they had 18 shots on goal, averaging
That's
3
crazy.
shots for a goal is absurd. And I want to say at that point the Stars had at least 30 shots, and we were down 6-3. And oh my god, I couldn't believe it. They start early with the
Yeah.
Duclair goal. Duclair ends up scoring later in the game. It was literally like every time they were on the offensive end, which wasn't that frequent, they scored. So I mean, credit where credit's due there. The Stars
Yeah, their
we were
offense is
attacking
great.
so much, it finally worked. Stankoven, my God, we called him up from the Texas Stars in the midst of an injury with Tyler Sagan. I think Foxa was hurt at one point, so we needed more people. Stankoven has been a revelation. He isn't just. I saw a headline. It's like he's not just a good story; he's a good player, something like that, something along those lines. But it's
Nice.
completely right. His line with Jamie Benn and Wyatt Johnson is unreal. I think last night they put up 13 points between them. Wyatt Johnson gets a hat trick, Stankoven 2 assists, Jamie Benn 2 assists and a goal. Stankoven had 2 goals, I believe. It was just they put on a clinic. I love seeing that line in action. Wyatt Johnson, I remember when he came on the scene last year for a brief stint, and now this season you definitely see so much potential, and not just potential, but actual like talent right now. And then you
Yeah.
look around the other attackers on the team with like Robertson. Sagan at one point was real hot. Now he's kind of cool, but you have Duchesne going out there. Miro can score from the defensive position. Thomas Harley is second in defensive goals. I mean, we put up numbers, man. And so that third period, Stankoven scores to make it 6-4 with like 6 minutes left. Excuse me. And then Wyatt Johnson scores to make it 6-4. I think he was, or 6-5. I think it was Wyatt's goal. With like 5 minutes. Like we scored 2 in 2 minutes. And then we score again, send it to OT. And it was Rope. Was it Rope who hit the game winner? I forget, but my
Coulda.
goodness, dude, like our attack is insane. I didn't even mention Rope earlier with all the attackers going on. So I mean, even being down 6-3, and mind you, I get the Sharks aren't great, but to come back the way they did, that just shows, the mental fortitude, the talent, everything. To be down 6-3 with 6 minutes to go and say, no, we're going for it. Which, again, I was talking about other sports. In basketball, you get down 20 with 5 minutes to go and you're taking your starters out and just taking the knee. In hockey, you're down 3 goals, which I would say that's like the equivalent of like 8-9 points in basketball. And you're like, no, we're going for it. And so, I mean, look, there's always a puncher's chance on those losing teams. I believe Ottawa gave us a loss at one point. There's, close games, but dude, it's crazy. Teams can be bad like the Blackhawks and Coyotes, but for the most part, like the Sharks and even the Ducks at one point this season, like they can play. The people in the uniforms are gonna hit people. They're gonna try. The roster might not be the greatest. The
Yeah.
coaching might not be the greatest, but they're gonna try.
Yeah. Well, we did have a Ducks versus Sharks game recently where the Ducks won, and they're just terrible. So
Yeah,
it's kind of funny.
real quick as well. Talking about the Stars this last week, you had a game where you get destroyed by Colorado, and then the very next, I don't know if it was the very next night, but the very next game you play the Jets, a team that we talked about who could potentially overtake the Stars in the division with points because they had so many more games to play, and the Stars beat the hell out of them. Like the final score was 4-1. It felt like an 8-1 blowout. The Jets could not get anything going offensively, and the Stars were just at them on their throats, putting the foot down. And it's not just against teams like the Sharks, who honestly put up a better fight than the Jets did, but it's against a team that we've talked about potentially being a danger in the playoffs, being the Jets. Now, the Colorado game, not the best, but one game at a time. You can't do everything.
Yeah. And I guess speaking about the Red Wings, Dylan Larkin got hurt against the Panthers, unfortunately. So he's going to be out for a couple weeks. So hopefully we do something between now and then, try to bolster our roster maybe in the next couple of days. I did read somewhere where Derek Lalonde is not really looking to, I guess, make any changes just because Dylan Larkin got hurt, but we still need some bolstering on our defensive end. Our puck possession is abysmal. Our defense is pretty bad. So I just hope we can get something going because, we're not going to be very much of a contender if we don't get any kind of defense. Because, you can't really win just on offense, as you can see with the Sharks.
And that's kind of been the story for y'all all season, right? Is not allowing goals. If y'all do, it's kind of done.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, but we did recently beat the Capitals 8-3, pretty dominating win. But then the next game we lose 3-5 against the Islanders, and then we just got shut out against the Panthers on, I believe it's Saturday. So,
oh boy,
yeah. The Panthers are really good. They've got 90 points in the season, so they're basically gonna be vying for that number one spot. I think they have 3 points ahead of the Bruins, and they only have 1 point or 1 game behind them. So I think they're going to be a lock for the new number one and just kind of maintain it for the rest of the season. I kind of expected a loss. I just didn't expect a shutout. So that kind of fucking sucked. But, either way, they didn't play very bad. We did score 8 against the Capitals. Granted, they're selling their team, so who knows if they even tried that day. But upcoming, we've got the Avs, Coyotes, and the Knights. Coyotes, of course, will probably beat just because they're got a pretty bad track record. Avs will be a pretty good game. They look like they're the favorite for tonight, and the Knights will probably lose. So I don't know, but we played the Sabres last night, I believe. Did we? Or
last night?
Sabres at some point?
No, y'all's last game was Saturday against Florida.
I don't know why I typed that then.
Y'all do play tonight against
yeah, we play the Avs. Maybe it's the next week, Tuesday.
What's your prediction for the games this upcoming week?
I was saying that we're probably going to lose against the Avs and the Knights. I was going to say something about the Sabres because it was on this note that I wrote, but I don't know why I put that. We'll probably beat Yeah. I think the Sabres are going to be the last game we play.
Sabres, sorry. Yeah, next Tuesday you do the Sabres.
So I say we beat the Coyotes and Sabres easy enough. But the Avs game will be interesting. They've got, who's it? Is it Nathan McKinnon on their team, or is it
Nathan McKinnon's on the Avs? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to be a pretty tough game because who's on the Lightning? What was his name?
Kucherov.
Yeah, that's right. So I think they're tied. At least a couple days ago, they were tied in points on the season. So 105. Avs are going to be a pretty tough game, and of course the Golden Knights we've talked about. They've hit a skid recently, but they're still a pretty solid team, and Aiden Hill is pretty solid of a goalie. So look to see their defense kind of stop our offense, and we'll probably not score a lot. So hopefully we'll get a win, but I don't know. I don't really know who's going to be our goaltender at that point, so just kind of depends on him. So either Lyon or Reimer. I don't even know if we're even cycling Husso in, but maybe every once in a while. But
when we're talking about Husso, it's probably better you don't. I'll give you a quick prediction on the Stars' upcoming games. Friday, we've got the Ducks. That's the trade deadline night as well. I'll say the Stars go ahead and beat the Ducks. The Stars play the Kings on Saturday, the very next day, on a back-to-back, and both games on the road. And we were on the road for the last Sharks game, so it's a road trip in California. I'll go ahead and say the Kings take care of us that night. And next Tuesday, we'll be returning back to Dallas. Hopefully, we're recording Tuesday as well, but we might record Wednesday, so I'll give my prediction for that. And say the Stars beat Florida, the Panthers, in Dallas. So that's my outlook for this upcoming week.
Nice, dude. Well, hopefully the Red Wings bring it home, at least the playoff spot. Wild card position, it seems, but it'll be interesting the next couple of days for trade deadlines. We'll definitely reach some sort of conclusion with the teams going forward. It'll be a little bit more, I guess, news packed next week as well. But seems like we've got a pretty good handle on what's going on. But
Yep.
We'll see the teams go.
Like Keaton said, we'll give you all the final trades that go down leading up to Friday's deadline next week. But I believe that's all. That's it for us today.
Yeah, I don't have anything else, but
All right.
Look to see what happens in the trade deadline, and see you guys next week.
Faux show. Peace out.